A lot of investigations in Washington right now, and now a member of the U.S. House says it's time to start another one, this one of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the former DNC chair from Florida. Her aide was recently arrested while trying to flee the country. He's now being charged. His name is Imran Awan. He's facing a federal bank fraud charge. He's been suspected of other wrongdoing for months. He was banned from the House computer network as a security risk. Red flags, to put it mildly, and yet Congresswoman Wasserman Schultz kept him on her payroll for reasons we can only speculate about. The whole thing does seem a little weird. Congressman Ron DeSantis of Florida agrees. He said it stinks enough to warrant an investigation of Wasserman Schultz herself. Congressman DeSantis joins us tonight. So, Congressman, for a sitting member of Congress to call for investigation of another sitting member who's in his state delegation seems to be probably a pretty high bar. Why are you doing this?
Well, Tucker, it's all about protecting the integrity of the House of Representatives. There's criminal matters that the Justice Department is dealing with on this, the financial crimes. I think you're probably going to see some procurement stuff. And then what we're waiting for is, why were these people sending this money to Pakistan? What were they doing with the information they were able to obtain? So that may all be criminal. But the issue with the House is, why were these people paid what they were paid, $4 million over a number of years? To put that in perspective, in my office, we spend about $1,500 a month for IT support. It's contracted out. But then they had access to the files of members of Congress who are serving on key committees, the Intelligence Committee, the Foreign Affairs Committee. So you have to get the facts of how these people would have been brought into the system, why weren't alarm bells answered earlier, and why, on heaven's name, was this guy allowed to stay even after we knew in February that these people were under investigation?
Now, at least some of them are foreign nationals from Pakistan, which anyone in the intel world can tell you one of the sketchier, more anti-American places on earth. Not everyone who lives there feels that way, but it's a dangerous, very complicated place. Why would these people have access to confidential committee information?
There's no good reason, Tucker, and some of these people weren't even showing up to the House and they were getting paid. Then others did have access, not only to the House, of course, Imran, he was at the Democratic National Committee for a time as well. So there's no good reason for it. During this time, it's also worth noting that several Democrat members of Congress wrote to the Appropriations Committee for more funding so that they could expedite security clearances for some of their staff. These guys would have been part of that truckload of security clearances. So there's just a lot of behavior that is not easy to explain. My sense is that this was happening in the Trump White House or with Republican members of Congress. This would be the #1 story on the New York Times website.
Yeah, I don't think it's even really being covered. And it's pretty difficult, maybe impossible, to disentangle partisanship from a story like this. It is Congress. It is Washington. We're living in an intense moment. But to the extent that you can, be honest. How weird is this? How unusual is this behavior for Debbie Wasserman Schultz to keep this guy in the payroll after it's clear there's a criminal investigation? That seems very odd, is it?
It's extremely odd. We already knew in February about the cash. Obviously, at some point between then and now, we knew about the smashed hard drives. So what's the explanation for this behavior? There's just not a good one, and that's why I think we just need to know what happened, and we need to be able to protect the House in the future.
So you've seen other cases over the years, going back decades, where members of Congress, thankfully a small number, but have had no-show jobs in their offices, where they give someone a job, the person doesn't actually do the job, that person kicks back a portion of his salary to the member of Congress. It's embezzlement, basically, but it's happened. Is the suggestion that something like that happened here?
Well, we have reports that some of these people, one worked at McDonald's for a time, then was doing nothing. Another was running some type of car company. So you don't make $160,000 in the House as an IT technician and then do those other jobs. So something's not right about it. Whether it was kickbacks, whether it was something else involving Pakistan, I can only speculate. But don't the American people need answers to that?
What does Debbie Wasserman Schultz say?
Well, it was interesting. I mean, she upbraided the Capitol Police during testimony in May, and it was a little odd because the Capitol Police do a good job for us, and I'm not saying that there can't ever be issues, but it was a little bracing at the time, and now looking back, you wonder, why was she taking that posture with this laptop that she really wanted back? So again, those are answers that we need to get.
Do you ever run into her in the hall or down in Florida and say, hey, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, like, why were you employing a family of Pakistanis for $4 million? Why are you doing that?
Well, it's a good question, but the thing is she's the most well-known member, but there were other Democratic members who employed some of these. Obviously, she kept him on even when the other ones fired them. So she's going to have to answer that question. I mean, obviously, that won't even be necessary for us to investigate. The press is going to ask her, and she's going to have to explain that because there's really no good explanation that I've seen so far.
Yeah, well, she's always welcome to come on this show and explain, and I'll listen patiently. Congressman, thanks a lot for coming on tonight.
Thank you.